Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is week 4, episode 20 of Into the Dungeonverse. I am your host and guide, as always, Mr. Adam. This show is brought to you by NewMinds.tv and New Minds Enrichment. NewMinds.tv is a repository of all the shows from Into the Dungeonverse, as well as the various shows that we have on our programming. So you'll notice that we are not live right now. There's not a little live icon right up there. This is our first pre-recorded video. So I won't be responding to comments live like I have in the past. Not that there have been a ton of live comments, but there have. But that does not mean that the interaction ends. I want you to still feel free to post comments because I will go on and I will be looking through the videos. I'll see comments and I'll be responding to those, and I'll even respond to them in future videos. So don't think that the interaction and the engagement ends here. We are still connected and I'm still here with you. Just reach out to me. And I will be more than happy to respond. So today we're going to do our role-play resources, or role-playing game resources. That our schedule is on Monday. We do a story and we introduce kind of the new theme, and we do some art that goes along with it, letting the story inspire our art. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we do our interactive quest, which happened to be this week featuring a Star Wars story where you had to go through some asteroid fields and uncover a mysterious plot, which we still don't know fully what is happening. You'll have to tune in more next week. And then Friday is our role-play resources. This is where I hop on and I explain how to make some resources. I'm going to make a resource with you, actually, to kind of start a quest, and then this will be available as a PDF for you, so you can print it and download it. But of course, since we're going through this process and I'm showing you these things, you can then make your own versions of these. But I do want it to be available for you to use in your quest. Now, if depending on who you are, you're going to be using a different system, right? All of us are using different systems. Some of us might be making up our own system as we go. That's totally, absolutely fine. What I'm going to do with these resources is I'm going to leave them kind of intentionally vague and ambiguous. So that way it's more just the narrative and plot hooks rather than, okay, you need to roll a 18 or higher, because you can figure that out. Of course, I'm available. You can reach out with questions, but I'll indicate that this should be something hard. And so if you're using maybe our difficulty table from the interactive quest, you'll know exactly where to go. If you are using something like D&D, there are resources that tell you how hard a certain number is. But yeah, that's it. So today we are going to look, I'm going to pull you into my program, my drawing program. I'm going to be using a different one than we have before because it's a little more responsive. So you wouldn't have access to this one necessarily, but I think it'll make it easier for you to watch. So let us go ahead and move in to our next sequence. So this program is called Mischief. It actually, I don't think it is for sale anymore. I don't think you can download it anymore. It is a unique program. I just dropped my pen. Excuse me. It's a unique program because it has this thing called an infinitely scalable canvas. So what that means is I draw this circle here. I can then come into my zoom and I can zoom in to the bottom of that circle, and then I can come back in and I can draw a little castle. See how much more responsive this program is than the other one I have been using? I'll draw a little castle. And then I can zoom back out. And you can't even see it. It's right there. So what this is useful for, a couple things. If you want to come in and make some details with some finer lines, I can come in and I can make these details, and they're going to be finer lines for me because I'm right in here. It's a little bit smaller, and I can get that more detail. So if maybe I want to put scales on a dragon, I might do that. And then I can zoom out, and that's going to provide a little bit of texture. So just to give you a little sample of what this program is, like what it's used for, or some, not what it's used for, but what some of its features are. There you go. I'm going to make a new document though. I have used this in the past as a campaign map. For example, let's say this is the campaign world. It's very pretty and beautiful. And we've got a city over here, and a city over here, and a city over here. We have these roads connecting them. What I might do in an adventure, if I was using this with a group, is, okay, you're traveling over to City A. So when you get to City A, you're going to enter through the West Gate. All right, so then I might actually zoom into this city here, and I would just draw my city map inside of this. So there I draw my little square for the city, and then I draw a gate. I can show that there are some buildings here. There's a little road going right through the center of town. Maybe there's a small square for people to sell things. We've got that right here in the center. But then I could zoom right back out when they go to another city, and now you can't really see that map. So if you want to find this program and use it, you can absolutely do that. That's a fun way you can use it. If you are running a campaign or moving throughout a continent, kind of creates that element of like in Lord of the Rings where they zoom out to the map and they show them moving from one end to the other. They might like cut to them walking, and then they zoom back into the new area, and then boom, you're actually there. You can totally do that effect. It's awesome if you have the time to go in and do that. But that's not what we're using it today. Today we are using it to create our map, or kind of our starting area. So when starting a quest, you want to have somewhere that brings people together, and then you want to have something that kind of interests them or hooks them into a plot. Whatever plot that might be. Now, depending on how you want to run this game, you could have a plot made up already and you just want to entice them and interest them in that plot, or you could actually see what they're interested in, lay out a couple of seeds, see what they're interested in, and when they go around and interact, whatever they interact with the most, then build your next quest based off of that. But today we're going to do it with the idea in mind that we have a quest that we want them to go on. So the first thing we got to do is we actually got to we have to build the establishment. We're going to make this an inn. So I'm going to start drawing that. Let's see if I have a line tool. I don't think I have a line tool, so I'm just going to freehand it. So we'll make the entrance to the inn right here down at the bottom. All right, it's going to be a double door, so I'm going to put a little line right here in the center. I'm going to put these lines on the end to indicate that that's where the wall is. All right, and I'm going to have it go out here. And when you're making an inn or a place, you have to kind of decide the culture. So what's this environment like? What's the name of this place that we're at? When I name inns, there's kind of like this naming pattern with inns and fantasy worlds. You often get an adjective, an adjective, and then an animal. So like the prancing pony, the silver swan, the roasted boar would all be great examples of one. The prancing pony is from the Lord of the Rings. The silver swan is actually an inn that I've made in our campaigns for Masters of the Dungeonverse. So let's make this one the Croaking Toad. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to write the Croaking Toad. The Croaking Toad Inn. So there'd probably be a sign hanging out front. I'm thinking it has a cauldron, and I might draw the cauldron. I might draw the sign later. It has a cauldron, and there's like a frog kind of peeking up over the edge, and he's looking like, I'm done with this. So the Croaking Toad Inn. Now we'll go back and we'll figure out maybe why it's called the Croaking Toad Inn. But let's start with this first area. I created kind of like a mudroom area. For those of you not familiar with what that feature is in a house, it's basically just a room, an anteroom, a front room, specifically designed to catch all of the mud off of people's shoes and prevent them from tracking it into the rest of the area. So I'm putting these these lines here because this is a wooden floorboard area. Okay, I'm gonna put some music back on for us. I like to have some music while I work. I feel like it gives me feel like it just gives me more creative energy, and it allows some things, some ideas to come from something other than my brain, which is good when you're coming up with a lot of stuff. The more that can come from outside resources like music or, oh my goodness, or just inspiration, that helps because it doesn't tax your brain as much. So we've got this front area, and then what I'm thinking is this is a pretty civil inn, and they don't like to have fights. So they have a rule. There's a little railing right here. They have a rule that you must check your weapons at the door. And you gotta get all the mud off of your boots. Okay, so let's come in here. I'm gonna erase one of my wooden lines, and I'm gonna draw some weapon racks for us to store our weapons on. Now this right here is actually your very first encounter, believe it or not. So if you're sitting and watching this with people who you think might be your players, send them away, make them run off, because you want to keep this a secret, because you're gonna be the game runner. This could actually be your first conflict in the group, because depending on your players, they might decide that they don't want to give up their weapons. Maybe they're a hardened adventurer and they've had a rough life and they don't trust people to keep track of their weapons. So this might be the very first like conflict or encounter that you have in this session, because as they walk in, if there's a place, there's going to be a sign that tells you, like, okay, you need to check your weapons at the door. But there's also going to be someone there to reinforce that, right? They're not just going to let you do that on your own. They're gonna have someone there to check. So we're gonna go ahead and put a number here. We're gonna put a little circle and a number, and this will be our reference for like encounters or characters. So I'm putting a circle right here, and I'm gonna put 1 in there, and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna make that same thing as a little note, and I'm gonna say doorkeeper. Okay, so I'm just going to put the doorkeeper there for right now. The doorkeeper's job is to greet people, make sure that they take their weapons and put them on the rack. The doorkeeper's other job is to make sure that weapons stay safe, that no one comes in and takes your weapons, because that would obviously be a concern if you had a really nice longsword, or if you had anything that you used and you left it and then someone else took it. That'd be awful. So this doorkeeper will be there to reassure everyone that your weapons will be safe. I'll watch them. Make sure to leave them there. Don't try to take any weapons in. This is a conflict-free establishment. Okay, and then maybe we'll put a little box over here, and this box is just like the box for kicking off mud. Oh, that's a rough looking box. And we will polish this up a little bit for you, the version that you get. Oh my goodness, I cannot draw a box. Let me try one more time. Oh my. I'm having a lot of trouble with these lines. Give it one more shot. Start at the bottom of the box. Alright, that's still a rough looking box, but we'll just put mud box here. Okay, so there we go. We have our entrance. We have our very first encounter or conflict, as this doorkeeper is going to tell them to leave their weapons at the racks and then to enter. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and move up so that we have a little more space for our inn. And now we're going to build out the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a nice big area here. All right, and then I'm going to make a balcony up here. I like the idea of having an inn where all the activity is kind of on the first floor. That's where everyone's eating and drinking their food and talking. And then up on the top, kind of like an old Western saloon, you've got all of your rooms. So I'm going to put some stairs over here. I'm going to make a little landing and some more stairs there. And I might go ahead and just label these stairs. That way it's really clear for my players or for anyone who's looking at it exactly what it is. Sometimes your drawing might not be the absolute best. Sometimes it's just easier to look at words. So that's totally fine. Try that out and see what works for you and for your group. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here, draw that top floor. Okay, and we'll put these here, for these doors. We'll say they've got 4 rooms. So not a lot of space in this inn. Do they maybe, there's a little door knocker. Maybe they actually have more rooms somewhere else. Maybe there's a bottom floor. But right now that's all we're working with. It's just that little space right there. We'll put some beams here to hold up the balcony. Okay, and we're actually going to put some tables underneath there as well. So I think that would be a good place to have some tables. We'll put some chairs around them. Now, something we also need to consider, we were talking about the culture. We have figured that out a little bit, right? They're kind of friendly. We get to decide everything about this place. Is this a human-only tavern or inn? Is this a place where any race, like elves and orcs, they could all get together and gather here? Sometimes there are restrictions. Sometimes elves only want other elves there. But I think this is going to be an all groups welcome kind of place. We want it to be kind of opening and available to everyone. And there's that crazy line again. All right, so now here we have the beginning of our inn. We'll put another door right here. There's 5 rooms. There's space for that. So there's 5 rooms here. We got 3 tables underneath that balcony. We need a place where we meet the owner. So this place is called the Croaking Toad, and toads are normally associated with like witches. And I was thinking about that sign being a toad on a cauldron, looking like he's kind of done with everything. So let's have a cauldron, and let's have our innkeeper, the person who runs this place, let's have them be a witch, I think. And I think instead of having, a lot of times you would have like a little bar over here where everyone would come and they would order their food and it would go out to the tables here, but I want to do things differently. I want to have a kind of unique place. In the very center of this inn, on this kind of raised platform, we're going to have this huge cast iron cauldron. We'll put the legs here. I'm going to make it really large. Okay, we're going to make it bubbling. We'll put a little fire underneath it. And I'm thinking that this is actually where all the meals are prepared. Put a little spoon sticking out of it. This is where all the meals are actually prepared. So it's kind of like one of those performance places where you go in and there's someone like fixing all the food like right in the center of everything. So it's kind of like that. The owner of the inn, I think maybe she is a witch. Maybe she just looks like a witch. We're going to put her right here. Every time I take my pin away and come back, it does that. It's kind of crazy. I need to stop making gestures. We're going to put this right here, a 2, and then circle it. And then we're going to put that over here. And we'll come back and we'll flush these characters out in a minute. And we'll put innkeeper. All right, so there we have our innkeeper. She's there in the center. And so if you know anything about like D&D or Dungeons & Dragons, there's one spell called Mage Hand. So I just had this super cool idea in my head. This allows you to create like a spectral hand that can move things up to like 10 pounds. It used to be 5 pounds in earlier editions, but they upped it up to 10 pounds. What if this sorceress, this witch in the center, she makes the food, and then you order your food, you just like, I don't know, put up a different color, or you light your candle or something on the table, and then she scoops it up using the mage hand, and then just floats a bowl to you across the the inn, so that way you don't have to get up. No one has to serve. So she doesn't even maybe she doesn't even have any staff. She just takes care of all of it herself. That would be kind of interesting. You just leave your coins on the table. Draw another chair here. So that'd be very cool. So we have our innkeeper. I'm just gonna put witch. Okay, so there should be some other tables around, I think. And we're going to do some longer kind of communal tables with some benches. Those other tables are more like private booths. But if you're just looking for something to eat, maybe some conversation, you go to one of these communal tables over here. Actually, we're going to put the other communal table here. And then I think we're going to move the stairs. And that's totally okay as you're making your map. If you decide that you want to move something somewhere, it's your map. Don't worry about it. Change it. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to erase those stairs. I'm just going to have the stairs come along this wall over here. I think that makes a little bit more sense with our design now. And there's our stairs. Okay, so we'll want to make sure that there's a path coming from the entrance up here, right? We'll make sure that people could actually walk here. Something to consider when you're making these maps is like, how would it function in real life? I think we'll put 2 long tables here, kind of side by side. So maybe people don't stay here as much. They come here for the food. Maybe she's got really special food. Maybe this cauldron's been burning for 100 years at this point. Is she the same one running it? I don't know. Probably not. I feel like this inn is missing something. Like maybe we need a little bit more to it. Maybe some sort of activity or something exciting for us to do. But right now we're running out of space a little bit. So we're gonna add another room. We'll leave this space right here open. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to add a little other room. This will be like the activity room. So this one, I'm going to put a line here. I'm going to put a line here. And now notice I didn't put any lines in the center. So we're going to make this, we're just going to make this an open arch. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to make this just to indicate that it's open into this other room. And then we'll draw out this other room. Very pretty, neat looking box there, right? It's beautiful. Remember, I will be polishing this up for you so it looks a little bit neater, but I want to show you the process here. I want to really get into that element of it. So in this room, I want to have some activities, stuff for us to do, because when you get to the end, you want to be able to find out information about your world and figure out where there might be quests, but we also want to have some action. Maybe not a straight up fight, right, because you're going into a peaceful inn, but maybe some activities or something. So hatchet throwing has become a big thing recently, right? This will be even bigger during that time. So we're going to have some targets. And we're going to have these little walls here, these little facades to act as barriers, right? Oh man, is that a good idea, having that right there by the door? Probably not. Let's change that. We're going to have over here be where you talk to the person who runs the games. So let me come back over to our character list. We'll put Game Runner, which is actually my title when I run games for Masters of the Dungeonverse. So that's me. Or Mr. Dorian, or Mr. Walter, or Miss Caroline. Just sitting in that corner. Okay, and then coming back, let's add those targets with our little facade. Keep people safe. And I'm thinking over here you can throw daggers or you could throw hatchets. There we go. So now we've got this place where we can throw targets. Maybe you can have a little competition. Maybe you have to pay to use it. You can decide that, or we'll flesh that out a little bit in the center or a little bit later on. And then let's come down here and let's make some chess tables. I don't know if they would actually be chess. I mean, chess is a very old game, so we could have it be chess. It would fit in a medieval setting. I'm just drawing this quickly, so again, be neater. So we'll make a couple of chess tables down here. But we could also create like another strategy game. It could be like a fantasy strategy game if we wanted. So we could definitely mix that up. But this gives, the reason I'm switching it up and not just having it be physical activities, is it gives the opportunity for different kinds of characters to excel and to shine, which is an important part of creating a session. Is you don't want it to just be cool for the character who is the big, brawny, hit him with a sword type. You want this to be cool for the wizards. You want this to You want this to be cool for the wizards, you want this to be cool for the rogues and for the rangers. So make sure that when you're designing your challenges, you try to keep them as open as possible to all different types of heroes and classes. Okay, so we have those two there. And then, I mean, do we need anything else? Really? We've got a place where we can throw targets, or we can throw knives and hatchets at targets. We've got a place where we can play chess. Got a couple less of those. Maybe we'll put one more chess table in here. And then let's start populating our inn with different people that we might be interacting with. Different quest givers, which you don't even necessarily have to give you the quest like, hey, please go on this adventure. They could just tell you about, oh man, I was going down the road and I was attacked by this strange flying creature. And then you can go and investigate what that strange flying, or have your party go investigate what that strange flying creature is. All right, there's another beautiful chess table. All right, so I'm going to label those, like I said earlier, right? Chess/strategy boards. In case we want to make up our own fantasy game. Or fill it in with another strategy game. And then we'll put targets there. And then we left this space open. We didn't put any tables or anything in here because it would make sense to me that we would want this to stay kind of open. We would want this to remain available to people. So you can walk in, you can do that. Maybe crowds kind of hang out right here. So let's start populating and put in some fun encounters for us. Let's go back to the main area. We've got the innkeeper at the center. We've got our doorkeeper, lots of keepers. We should have made the 3 gamekeeper, but that generally refers to like keeping animals, like the wildlife. Okay, so let's put number 4. Let's come in here. We're gonna put number 4 on this table, and we're gonna have number 4 be a lonely and grumpy looking individual. Lonely and grumpy adventurer. Okay? And we're actually going to make them a quest hook. If you go and engage them, and we'll have this written down, if you go and engage them, they actually have like plates and drinks set out for 3 other people, but they're the only one there. Maybe you ask them like, are you waiting for someone? And they say no. They recently went to a temple, an ancient temple with a group, and they tried to loot it and to gather supplies, or not gather supplies, but to gather valuables. And they did get some, which is why he has some money and he has all this food, but his friends got trapped in the temple, and he doesn't feel like he can go back and rescue them. But he would pay greatly if someone were to escort him, maybe, or to travel with him, or to go on his behalf and rescue his friends who are trapped in a temple. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to come over here so you can see it. I'm going to write all of that stuff down. Lost friends in a temple. will pay for escort or help. Because he'd be okay with letting you go. He's pretty scared of all the traps and monsters that they saw there, so he doesn't necessarily want to go back himself, but will go back for his friends. And this is kind of a good thing to do in early quests, having an NPC tag along or help you out with something. That's important because when players are first starting an adventure, sometimes they can be a little misguided, and an NPC can kind of help remind them, like, hey, I need to find my friends, or, you know, we can't spend time doing this. Try not to do it too much because it can get annoying if your game runner always has an NPC in there kind of babysitting you, but it can be a useful tool just to kind of act as a reminder for, hey, you're here to rescue these people, because adventuring parties get distracted. That is that is just a fact. Okay, so there's that. There's our quest hook, I think, and what will happen is in our next role-playing resources is we're actually going to go to that temple, and I'm going to draw that temple out, and we'll flesh out that encounter. So this is just your start to get you interested. So you'll talk to that person here, which means if this is important for our players to get a hold of, is we need to direct them to this, maybe by having the innkeeper float some food over, or you know, whatever. Yeah, we can come up with that, and we can play with different ideas on how to get that in there. Okay. All right. So I want to have another kind of more exciting encounter, maybe a couple of them to try out, because it's the first session. We're going to want to be trying out our skills and abilities and stuff, right? So we are going to be itching or kind of spoiling for an encounter. So let's have another encounter up here at this door. And we'll come back down. Five. Cracked door. Like it's cracked open. Oops, that's a B. And we'll say this is like medium difficulty to notice. So if you're playing D&D, it would be like a perception check. Okay, medium difficulty to notice. But what's happening in there? Someone is stealing. All right, so someone is stealing, so we catch a thief. Maybe you go up and investigate, maybe you see them coming out, you see someone has a lot of like gold stuffed in their pockets. All right, and here this kind of just naturally came to me and organically. Here's our connection, right? We've got number 4, that lonely and grumpy adventurer. They're sad and upset. They have all this money though. What if they're so distracted that they left their door unlocked? What if they've been talking about this to anyone who will listen, and people know that they have a lot of money and that they're not paying attention? So what that could mean is this is our link to 4, because we need to get people directed to 4, so that way we can take them on that temple quest. So what if this belongs to the owner, or this belongs to table 4? Someone is stealing from form. Someone is stealing from, I'm just going to put 4. We'll give them a name later. Someone's stealing from 4. So now when your players encounter this and they get to stop that thief, they can go and they can say, hey, innkeeper, we just caught someone trying to break in to this room. And she's like, oh my, it's that person's room. Could you let them know? Or maybe the innkeeper will let them know. And then now we have introduced you to this person who you're already kind of want to help, right? Because they're having a rough time. Someone just tried to steal from them. So you might already be, as a player, motivated to help out. I mean, this is starting to really come out as a neat place to talk to. Or a neat place to start and for people to talk to. We'll fill it with a couple other things. I want to have one more encounter, and then we'll just kind of fill in some of the other spaces, because your players won't always go to the areas you want them to. They're going to go talk to the random person that you never even thought about who they are. So let's come over here and we'll do 6. Of course, you can come over here and you can play the game with the gamekeeper. We'll do 6. 6 is going to be a very talented knife thrower. Coming back over here. 6. Talented knife thrower. Looking for a challenge. Put it all caps. This person has beat like everyone. So this is going to be, let's say, very hard. And if you beat him, you get some gold. But I think that you have to pay him to challenge him at all. So this is a little bit of a risk. It's kind of like a carnival game. You have to pay to play it, and there's only a small chance that you're going to win. So this is very hard. If you win, you get gold. And a squiggly line. If you win, you get gold, and you must pay to play. Okay, so we'll probably make the pay half of reward. And we could have this knife thrower, maybe he's a bad guy, maybe he's like cheating and tricking people. But let's just have them be really good at knife throwing. I like that idea here. So now we've got several different things they can do. They walk in, they've got an encounter with the doorkeeper. They can then see the innkeeper, they can speak to her. There's this room full of games, of chess, strategy games. There's a very good knife thrower that you can challenge and kind of compete with. There's also this cracked door that you might investigate and be able to stop a thief in an encounter, which would be pretty cool. And then there's this lonely, grumpy adventurer we can talk to actually get our quest for our campaign. So now let's just add a couple of more things to really fill in that those places where they might not be, because we do need to know like who else is going to be in there, because they might go to the table that you don't have anything written down for. So let's just have some basic notes for those things. So we're on number 7 now. I'm going to come back in here. We're going to make more squigglies. We'll say that one of these is empty. Empty, so there's no one there. So maybe if your party wants to go and have their own table, they could sit right there. Or actually, we'll make it easier to get them to where we need them. We'll make this table empty. So that way if they sit down there, they are right by our quest giver. Okay? Let's have this group be social. This group is private. So they don't want to talk to anyone. They're maybe discussing their next mission, their next quest. So they're kind of all huddled around the table. And then let's make this one, what could be here? Let's have an old man with endless stories. There's just an old guy sitting there and he's talking to whoever will listen. And so they're actually like 3 or 4 people sitting around, they're listening, they're eating their meal. Maybe this guy used to be a bard. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit and take a look. This is, okay, I'm going to check our time and see how long we actually spent on creating this, because it hasn't been that much time. So we're at 40 minutes. I think I started probably 10 minutes in. So 30 minutes and we have this whole area. We've got an innkeeper. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things that they can encounter, and it links them to their very next quest. This is exactly what we're looking for as a basic intro encounter or scenario. But the thing is it doesn't have to be like this. It could be totally different from this. It could be a rough and tumble kind of inn where maybe in the center there's like a fighting ring and you can spar people, and that's like the entertainment. But this one we're going with something a little bit different. The Croaking Toad Inn. It's called the Croaking Toad because this witch uses a cauldron, and she says the toad died a long time ago. I like the idea that this witch is actually maybe a little bit older than she seems. Like maybe she looks like she's like 50 or 60, but she's actually maybe like 200 years old. And she could talk about how she's been running this inn the whole time and that this cauldron has never stopped bubbling for 150 years. I believe that is a thing in different parts of the world. There are these cauldrons, or not cauldrons, but like pots where they make food. And there's I'm gonna look it up right now as I'm talking. Um, let's do long burning cauldron, where they just mix food in over and over again, and they just never let the heat go down. All right, I'm not seeing anything about it with a quick Google search. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna find that detail and confirm that for us, because that's something that I had heard about before, but don't have that many details about. But I believe there are places you can go where like their kind of premise or their selling point is like this pot of food. It's different food. They don't just have the same food, but like this pot of food has been on heat for 50 years or 100 years, that it's always been kept on this heat. It's just kind of like a novelty thing. So I'm going to say that her cauldron is like that. Maybe the fire never goes out. Maybe she has a mage hand always stirring it, so the food is just always ready for anyone who comes in. So here we are with the Croaking Toad Inn. I'm going to write it up here. The Croaking Toad Inn. Here we are at the Croaking Toad Inn with our different quest points, our different quest encounters, our different things for us to do. We've got a little bit of an environment. What I'm going to do is I will polish this up, and you will actually be able to print this out and use it, and we'll have notes for each of those different encounters, remembering that you will have to apply it. Remembering that you will have to apply it to whatever rule system you are using. So let me pop back over here. So that's it. That's our episode for today. We have made a starting encounter. So we have the beginning of our quest. So if you've been itching to try out a role-playing game with your friends or with your family, you all need something to do, take this as a starting sample, run it this weekend. You can run your very own game, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot. Or you can use this process that I did to create your own. I think that's the most fun. You'll find that I am, if you play any of my games, I'm all about homebrew campaigns, which means I'm all about making it up yourself. Modules are great and resources are great, especially to start, but I think the coolest thing is playing a story that no one else has ever played because it's made for you specifically. And that's part of what we do at Masters of the Dungeonverse. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed making an inn with me. I hope you enjoyed following along, and I hope this gave you some ideas for how to make your own encounters, and that you can use it as a resource. So next week on Friday, we're going to continue on. We're going to go to that temple that was mentioned by our grumpy adventurer, and we're going to map that out. It'll be our first actual dungeon for your party. So there we are. That's our episode. Thank you for tuning in to some real inspired learning. Remember to always pursue your passion until it becomes your talent. Whatever that is for you, it doesn't matter if it's singing, writing, drawing, whatever it is, pursue that, because that's what gives us the most happiness in life. I've done things that I thought were good for my professional development, things that made me more official and adult. I didn't enjoy them that much. When I do things that I love, I'm so much happier. So I encourage you all to do the same. The earlier you start, the more of your life you're going to enjoy. So keep that in mind. Pursue those passions until they become your talents. Up next, we've got Round the World with Mr. Walter, and then a Steam lesson from Mr. Dorian, a New Minds from the Vault Steam lesson, and then our End of Day with Ben Cook. Remember that all of these shows are available on newminds.tv, a repository where we have over 140 videos at this point, and it's only going to grow. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on, let me count one more time. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a day, right? We've got a lot of videos a day. That's the point that I'm trying to make there. So there's tons. Thank you for being here, and we will catch you next time. I appreciate you being here.